Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre. With me is Chris. We're here to talk about the NFL draft, but we're not going to talk about those rookies right now. We're going to talk about those players who were winners and losers without having to do a thing. Some of the running backs that might come out ahead or fall behind because of what went down. So let's get to it. Chris, who's a running back that you think is a winner because of the NFL draft?
Well, I think one of the biggest winners that I haven't really heard anybody talking about is Chase Edmonds. This guy looks like he is the starting running back for the Miami Dolphins, which is going to be a much better offense, with the addition of Tyreek Hill. But not only that, the head coach, Mike McDaniels, he's a run game specialist, a run game genius, right? Coming from that Shanahan tree, that Shanahan offense, he knows how to get the most out of these running backs. The only competition Chase Edmonds has is 30-plus-year-old Raheem Mostert, who can't even last, an entire series before he gets hurt, and Myles Gaskin, who was terrible last year. So it looks like they're going to roll with Chase Edmonds as a guy. I mean, we could see Chase Edmonds getting, 70, 80% of the touches in this backfield, and no one seems to care. He's a guy you can get 9th, 10th round. He's going later this year than he was going last year when he was splitting with James Conner. So I think Chase Edmonds is a huge winner after the NFL draft.
Yeah, this is the second year in a row where people just assumed, including myself, that the Dolphins would pick a running back somewhere. Maybe not early, but at least at some point, get a rookie running back. And they haven't, right? They've gone with what they had. So last year didn't work out too well. But this year, of course, it's all about the offense, right? Catering it to Tua, his strengths, getting him some weapons. They definitely did that. But like you said, Chase Edmonds is the guy. He fits this offense perfectly. He can catch the ball, which is essential, especially in fantasy. You probably play PPR, or at least half PPR. He's got that, right? He's definitely going to be the pass catching back. There's really no threat. Like you said, Myles Gaskin, he's the reason they got Chase Edmonds, because he didn't get the job done. Remember, he was replaced by Duke Johnson at the end of last year, who Duke Johnson actually looked pretty good. But that's what could happen in this offense, especially this year. Just imagine. And Raheem Mostert is not a threat. So Chase Edmonds, like you said, is still being undervalued. And I'm not sure why, because he's clearly a winner in all of this. All right, so let's get to another guy that we think is a winner. Talk to me about Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. How do you think he came out ahead?
Yeah, I got to do a complete 180 here on Travis Etienne, because I thought for sure the Jaguars would draft one, maybe two running backs. Because you look at this backfield, you got James Robinson coming back from Achilles, Etienne coming back from a Lisfranc injury. You think maybe they're nervous. They had enough picks. They're probably going to add at least one, maybe two running backs, but they really didn't. So it looks like they are ready to roll with Travis Etienne as the guy. I mean, maybe they think, because of what they saw from Cam Akers, that James Robinson can make it back from Achilles really quick. But look, Cam Akers wasn't the same Cam Akers when he came back, right? He was not the same guy. And I don't think James Robinson is going to be the same guy. That Jacksonville offense isn't going to be as fantasy friendly as the Miami offense, but still, any running back, set to get the bulk of their team's touches. And we know he's also a very good pass catcher as well, which is great in those PPR leagues. He's going to have tons of value, and he's kind of going in that 4th, 5th round range right now. So another guy who just kind of under the radar after not playing last year, and looks like, he's getting a big boost after the draft.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I'm going to have to start coming around a little bit on Etienne. And look, nothing against the player. The issue is just Jacksonville itself, that offense. Like, I'm glad, obviously, they purged themselves of the whole Urban Meyer thing. You got Doug Peterson, more of an offensive guy here. You've seen what he's done in Philadelphia. I think that they'll get Etienne enough touches. I just really kind of need to see what this Jacksonville offense looks like before I buy into it. So I hate that his ADP is rising because, well, now we know that he's going to be their main running back. I don't know if it's going to be too rich for me because, again, like I said, I just don't see this offense scoring a ton of points, right? We need to see Trevor Lawrence really do it, as a pro. So he's definitely a winner from the draft. Like, there's no question about it. And his ADP should rise. I just worry if it rises too much. All right, and then one more winner. Let's talk about a guy we really thought was going to get a compliment. And technically, the Cardinals did draft a running back, but not till round 6, I think, with Keontae Ingram. So that means James Conner is the guy in Arizona. I know you've kind of gone back and forth on Conner the last couple of years. How do you feel about him?
Well, I mean, you got to feel good in the sense that they paid him a lot of money. And like you said, they didn't draft a running back till the 6th round. So they obviously feel good about James Conner. My issue with James Conner is he's been the same guy the last 2 years. He was the same James Conner in Pittsburgh as he was in Arizona. Look up the stats if you don't believe me. His yards per carry, his yards, his receptions, they're almost all identical. The big difference was, 18 touchdowns versus I think he had 5 or 6 in Pittsburgh. So he's going to still need a lot of touchdowns. But again, another guy who looks like his team is fine with him being the lead back. He should get lots of opportunities to score. Again, this was a guy I thought maybe going into the draft, they might draft one of those top end guys like Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker. They didn't, so his job looked safe. Still a little nervous about the touchdown regression, but other than that, he's locked in. He's going to get the touches, so got to feel good.
Yeah, here's the funny thing. This might be a guy who comes out as a winner from the draft and yet performs worse this year than he did last year. And I think that's what's going to happen just because, like you said, even if he does get more touches, it doesn't mean that he'll score more fantasy points. So much of his value last year was tied to touchdowns, but touchdown rate is one of the quickest things for regression to hit. So it's very unlikely he scores as many touchdowns as last year, and there could be a big drop potentially this offense without Andrew Hopkins for a while. Who knows? This Arizona offense is a little bit different this year. Conner will still get all those same goal line touches, all the bulk of the early down work, but he's not a very good pass catcher, and that's why, honestly, I like Keontae Ingram as a late round pick. He's kind of going to be the new Chase Edmonds, and he's going to be going dirt cheap. So I'll probably wind up with more Ingram on my fantasy teams than Conner this year. All right, now on the flip side, obviously some running backs who did get drafted, and there weren't too many early, but when they did land on a new team, that means someone else saw their fantasy value drop. We have to start with Michael Carter. Obviously, I don't think anybody really predicted the Jets to go running back, especially be the first team to take a running back like Breece Hall. So does this mean Michael Carter is just absolutely dead in fantasy?
I'm not going to say he's absolutely dead, but I think he's more in that range of decent handcuff with lots of upside. I mean, not only did they draft Breece Hall early, they traded up to get him. And reports were they were trying to trade into the fourth round or into the first round for their fourth pick to get Breece Hall. Like they had a first round grade on Breece Hall. So Breece Hall definitely is going to get more of the carries because Michael Carter, I don't think anybody thought Michael Carter was going to be a 15 plus carry guy. It's more about the passing game, but Breece Hall is great in the receiving game. So that's the problem for Michael Carter here. If they had drafted, say, Kenneth Walker, I'd probably still feel pretty good about Michael Carter because you think, well, his pass catching role is probably safe. But they drafted Breece Hall. Carter's still going to have a role. He'll still catch some passes. He'll still get some carries. But he's going to be more of like a desperation flex play. And like I said, he's like a handcuff who, if you're in a pinch, you could throw him in your lineup if you need to. And if Breece Hall goes down, we know he has value. But other than that, I think that's it for Michael Carter this year.
Yeah, the one thing that stood out to me is just because Breece Hall absolutely could be a 3-down back. But the one thing Michael Carter did well in the few games where he kind of stood out last year was catch passes, right? He had one game where he caught a ton of passes, and he's got good hands, so he could be somebody who has a third-down role. I'm not saying he's going to replace Breece Hall every time because Breece Hall can catch the ball just fine. But I think that's kind of going to be his role. Not a lot of high-end value, to be honest, but don't forget, injuries happen. If Breece Hall goes down, then all of a sudden Michael Carter becomes very interesting. So don't completely scratch him off your draft list like some people are doing. In Dynasty, some people are just trading him away for nothing. Don't go to that extreme either. All right, now the next running back taken was Kenneth Walker, and another unexpected landing spot, Seattle. And so we don't know about Chris Carson. To me, this kind of tells me they see, the writing on the wall. Maybe Chris Carson, not a sure bet to even play this season, if at all, anymore. But Rashaad Penny, it just looks like the breakout's just never going to happen, right? Does this mean that Penny, that Seahawks maybe don't have any faith in him?
I don't know about that because he looked so good down the stretch. And what was interesting about Penny was they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, but then they signed him to an extension, right? They signed him in free agency, right? They brought him back in free agency. So they must like him to some degree. I think this is going to be more of a 50-50 type of split. Maybe Kenneth Walker, emerges as slightly the guy, but I could also see Rashaad Penny emerging as slightly the guy. Also, this is an offense. They ran the fewest plays in the league by far last year. this is not a fantasy-friendly offense to begin with. So any running back in this offense, as we saw last year, needs a ton of touches to have fantasy value. That's why Penny was having so much fantasy value last year, because he was the only running back left standing. He was getting all the touches. Well, now, even if he is technically the guy over Kenneth Walker, if he can hold him off, what's it going to be, a 55-45 kind of split? And that's just not going to be enough in this offense, especially this year when the best option at QB is going to be Geno Smith or Drew Lock. So, yeah, for this year, I mean, everybody who was all over the Penny train, as the league winner last year, just add Penny to the list of names of running backs who came on strong at the end of the season, won people's championships, and then did nothing the following year. There's a bunch of them every year. It happens every year, and Penny is just another name to that list, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, I have to agree with you there. I wish I could maybe undraft some of my Rashaad Penny shares from Best Ball. Look, I took a gamble on him before the draft. Really didn't think the Seahawks would invest an early pick in running back, and they did. They took one of the best running backs in this entire class. So I've got to, think, obviously this is health related. Both Chris Carson and Rashaad Penny have looked really good running the ball. It's just they haven't done that a lot lately. Rashaad Penny, more games missed than played in the NFL. And Chris Carson, like I said, I mean, there's a really good chance that he just doesn't play another snap in the NFL. And I've got to think that's what they were thinking. They have to run the ball because Russ Wilson is not there anymore. So, Walker could get all of the touches, if Penny does get hurt again. And it still wouldn't make him a top 10 running back because this offense just is not going to be good. So, unfortunately, Penny at this point is kind of worthless, I'd have to say. And then last but not least, a guy, some people might not even think about this because they're not threatened too much by Zamir White. Zamir White, one of those running backs I really think has been undervalued. I loved him, going through the pre-draft process. I actually think the Raiders is a good landing spot for him because Josh Jacobs just got his option declined. So, Josh Jacobs, do you think he's going to get phased out this year?
To some degree, yes. I mean, I think White is going to take... This could be like what we saw with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams last year. Like you said, the Raiders did not pick up Josh Jacobs' option before the draft. Like, it wasn't after they drafted Zamir White. They're like, okay, we don't need to pick. No, they didn't pick up his option before the draft. So the writing is on the wall that the Raiders are probably moving on from Josh Jacobs. Anyways, Zamir White, to me, Zamir White is Josh Jacobs 2.0. Not a great pass catcher, not going to do a lot in the passing game. A good first and second down back, a good goal line type of back. He's Josh Jacobs 2.0. So to me, the Raiders, they drafted Josh Jacobs' replacement. I don't see why they would have him sit there for a year while they force feed Josh Jacobs. I think we're going to see something close to a 50-50, like I said, with Gordon and Javonte last year. So, I mean, Jacobs never a guy I was high on, but definitely much lower on him this year than ever in years past, really.
Look, you said it perfectly. He's basically Josh Jacobs 2.0, has the same type of skill set, didn't have as productive of a college career late because he was sharing time with James Cook. Why would they draft him when they have Jacobs? And then why would they all of a sudden draft a running back after declining Jacobs' option? Look, Jacobs has been fine, but they could get somebody interchangeable with him who isn't going to cost them money, like a rookie. So I think for this year, Jacobs will be okay. He's still playable. Maybe he's an RB3. Zamir White is a guy I'm definitely looking for, especially towards the end of the season and next season. All right, so those are some of the running backs, winners and losers from the NFL draft. Guys to keep an eye on and watch that ADP, how it changes throughout the offseason. It's always about value. That's what we want to preach here. All right, guys, thanks for checking us out. We'll be here all offseason long to help you win in 2022.